The Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Planted. I'm Sara Payan, your host, and today we have Maya Elizabeth, the founder of Om On. Welcome, Maya. I'm so excited to have you here. Maya has been making amazing products for years. Her brand is actually one of my favorites in my classes. I talk a lot about her Epsom salts, which I am a huge fan. Maya, welcome to the show today. I'm just really excited to have you on, and I know we've got a lot to talk about.
Thank you so much, Sara. It's an honor to be here, and I can't wait to dive into all the things cannabis today. It's a great day to celebrate the healing properties of cannabis on 2/15.
I know. It's a historic day. I mean, this is where California basically set the stage for the rest of the world around medicinal use and then eventually legalization, which has its own issues that we'll talk about today too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But before we get into that, would you share with our audience what your first cannabis experience was?
Sure. Well, the first time I smoked weed was out of like a Super Mario can with my older brother at the park. And I got busted because I also smoked a cigarette, and my mom smelled my hand when I got home, and was in big trouble. I didn't really get high that time. The first time I got high was actually like a year later. I was 13. The first time I smoked, I was 11. The next time I was 13, maybe 12. And I got so ripped, and I felt so freaking good. It was almost like my ears were on an airplane. Like, that's how high I was. It was like underwater sounding, and my body was so floaty, and everything was so funny. And I ate so many different things. Like, the munchies were so crazy, and I just remember having the best day and not being worried at all, even at a young age. It was an interesting time for my family and my development. And so from that moment on, I actually was in love with weed. And I've been smoking super tough all day, every day since I was 14.
What made you decide to get into cannabis and develop your line of products?
Well, I love weed. So I smoke weed every day, as I just said. And I strive to get it in and on my body every day. So the formulations kind of came naturally. They were just things that I wanted to make for myself to use, like balm essential oils and different face oils and all the things I like to use for my hair and skin, but with weed in them, And I went to San Francisco State for college. I studied psychology, and that whole time I just didn't really know weed was an option. And then my roommate got me a job at a dispensary that was called CMC, Canna Med Care, at Polk and Sutter back in the day, like 15 years ago. And I became a bud tender there. And I was already smoking tons of weed every day, but I would wait till I was done with waiting tables. I was a waitress for 12 years. I'd wait till I was done with my class. But then I got to CMC, and I got to basically roll people's joints, run people's volcanoes, make people's medicated drinks. We had a medicated barista station, serve countless patients, and then also sell the clones. And it went on to do other things like, cooking for the staff meals and all this stuff. But I had this full round the world cannabis experience, and I knew from that point on that I would just literally never go back. I could never, ever, ever have another job again. And I didn't know that where we were all going, that, we were on the brink of this legalization a decade later. But I went on, after we got shut by the feds and the IRS, which many clubs in that era did, I went on to become a career trimmer. And then I was a career hash maker. And I always had my side hustle. They called me the Weed Mary Poppins because I would make all kinds of products, and I had my own grow. And it was just why would you do anything else, really?
Yeah, right. And I totally understand that, because that's when I made the jump to work in cannabis. It was at the time it was a decision that was kind of made off the top of my head when I was in school, but I didn't realize till I was immersed in it that was an option for a career path. And once I was in it, I was like, this is it.
Yeah, right? How could you go back? And then once I started doing not only cannabis, but cannabis for myself. So not working for anyone else and having my own connection with the plant and my own grow and my own way to process things and stuff. Like from that point on, truly, life started getting really exciting and dreams started becoming realities.
Yeah, I mean, you've done a lot of really interesting stuff in this space. You've had some really interesting partnerships. You've had amazing products that have won numerous awards. One thing that I my first experience with your products was your infused Epsom salts, and being a cancer survivor, even 10 years out, I still have neuropathy in my hands and feet. But when I first used your product was when I was still having a really hard time walking. And I was amazed because people used to say, oh, try topicals, try this, try that. I understood that it helped other people, but I wasn't finding that kind of relief with using topical cannabis. And it wasn't until I used your bath and my feet felt like normal for that evening. I did cry because I was just like, I couldn't believe that I could actually feel like I wasn't walking on hot coals or pins and needles for a whole evening. And for those of you out there who haven't dealt with persistent pain, it's a very psychological thing. And for those of you who have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And to have that relief was like when I really started to understand the power of topicals.
That's amazing. Yeah, I call them cannabis miracles, and sometimes they come in the way of a topical. I myself have experienced cannabis miracles that have just solidified my omens along the way that, like, this is absolutely the most amazing work someone could be honored to do, and like many of the things that we make, I stumbled into that. I used to be a member of an all-female collective called the Homegrown Collective, which we started in 2008, and it was our all-female grow. And my business partner at the time was the master grower, and I would do a lot of the watering and then go sell all of our pounds to the dispensaries at the time, then it was the Vapor Room and the Love Shack and kind of a different era. But we had made, a seed line with the Cookie Fam. So it was called the Ladies Line. There were all these like cookie crosses, which nobody had at the time. And so my business partner at the time came in and she was like, oh, I'm so sore. These Epsom salt baths have just been making my life so much better while I'm planting and doing all this hard garden work. She would dump like a whole bag at a time, which, by the way, a third of the efficacy of those salts is the magnesium salt, which is Epsom salt. It's a simple mineral compound people have been using for thousands of years to find relief. It does a million things. Like, it's a miracle. Okay. Epsom salt alone is a miracle. Okay.
Yeah.
And so she says, I'm going to go take a bath. And mind you, those expensive tanks that you float, those are just like 2,000 pounds of Epsom salt. So if you ever want to take a giant bag and put it in your bathtub, it's affordable. You can do it, and it's really great, right? So I had just made a huge batch of weed olive oil because we did a lot of olive oil at the time. I said, hey, do you want me to put some weed in that bath? She's like, okay. And I went in and I put a huge, maybe a cup of super strong cannabis olive oil made from full flower from our farm, of course. And she came out and she was like, dude, my body is like a noodle. I am so high right now. And I was like, oh my God, no way. She goes, yeah, I'm high. And I said, okay, I'm taking one. And I went and I ran a bath and I came out and I was like, oh my God, I'm high. And it took me a while to recognize that it's actually the colon, which is absorbing like a sponge. Mm-hmm. And the womb space has more cannabinoid receptors than anywhere else in the human body. Is that not our creator saying, put this here? I don't know about you, but that says put it here, right? So I then realized, these were like 1,000 milligram baths. Like, still for myself, I'll put Rick Simpson oil in a bath for myself when I really need, these deeper therapeutic. And so, your scalp and your skin epidermis, and as I mentioned, the magnesium and the heat from the water. I mean, so many magical things happen just when you submerge your body into hot water, because every part of your body is touched at once, which triggers the parasympathetic nervous system to relax. So it's just a super beautiful, like, harmony of factors, and then enters these plant-based skin nourishing oils that we use. It's like apricot, jojoba, argan, and avocado seed. And then, of course, you know, the cannabinoids, which are antifungal, antiviral, antibacterial, antimicrobial. Even though we're not supposed to say it, we know they're anti-cancer. The plant has protection against harmful sun rays. The plant has protection against different molds. We keep the terpenes intact, and we also use essential oils, which are other terpenes. So it's just like this truly a unique type of consumption that we call cannabis hydrotherapy that I say really deserves a category of its own. It almost hits you more like a suppository because of the colon and the womb space.
Yep.
So I will try my hardest to wrap it up. They're just so dang magical. I can't help but like point out all the amazing connections. So like, they provide all the things that a topical does, like helps with bruising and pain and dermatological issues and making your skin supple and post-workout soreness and all those things, you know, but actually so much more because it's entering the colon and the womb space. So they're really good for anything below the belt that nobody wants to talk about. Any bud tenders out there, trust me, the patient is more embarrassed than you, I bet. And they're also kind of like, you know what I mean? They're the products for everyone because there's no chance of a bad trip. Like when I smoke weed, it's passing my brain. When I eat an edible, it's getting my head high. Like those are the things that someone can come back and say, I had a non-medicinal experience that was too much for me. The bads, there's just no such thing because it's actually just entering below the belt. And so it literally doesn't give you a quote high, but it's an undeniable, super palpable mind and body relaxation.
Yeah. And I think that it's essential for you to talk about all that because people don't really understand. When I discuss in classes like the different modes of use of cannabis, is like you have to almost look at them as separate substances in themselves because of how they manifest differently in our bodies with how we process it. And the baths are just such a special thing because like you said, they do behave more like a suppository. We have all those, it's like a suppository sublingual topical that's it's systemic. And I actually had talked my husband into taking a bath when we were still dating. I no longer have a tub, but I used to have a beautiful clawfoot tub that I gave up for love. It's still in San Francisco.
Oh my God, what a woman you are.
You know, there are things you just have to give up. But he hates baths and he sat in it. And he, to this day, he's like, it was like having a full body massage. I was floating several inches, you know, over the floor when I walked out of that. And these are, I think, the conversations that we need to have about all the different ways to use it because, you know, someone might do really well with baths, but maybe not so well with the other modes of use. And that's what I think just makes the plant so special is that there are just so many different ways to do it, whether it's modes of use or chemovars and like when you're getting into, you know, the genetics, just the fascinating genetics and the properties and I love it. And that's, you know, that's why I love talking to people like you because you really are immersed in it and love geeking out about it. And, you know, on that note, what are some other things that you're excited about?
Sure. Yeah, no. So, well, I'm obsessed with cannabis hydrotherapy. So like it's interesting as I dive deeper into this like recreational realm, quote unquote, it's like, there is even therapeutic topicals and recreational topicals. So you think of an Epsom salt, those are a 1-to-1 ratio. Those are very therapeutic, you know, and we just released these rosin bath bombs and those are so much more recreational. They're like a little square with a super cute weed leaf and they're chemical free, but they're made with rosin and they're twice as much THC. And I'm just basically obsessed. We did 3 different flavors and just so interesting to see that there really are 2 different demographics, like, and people actually want recreational topicals as well. So it's fascinating to think that one plant could provide so many different forms of relief and so many different desired side effects, right? So on top of all the things we just talked about, let's not overlook sexy time. Like I've gotten so many couples testimonials like, yo, those salts or like that bath bomb, like, oh my gosh, me and my friend, we're just like so loose and relaxed, and it's not the same, regretful behaviors like alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also on top of that, the government patent for cannabinoids is for antioxidative properties and neuroprotectant properties. So by definition, antioxidants cancel free radicals, and free radicals are what cause wrinkles and illness. So like, once again, on top of all that, there's like this beauty perk, like, oh my God, and it makes fine lines go away, and like the magnesium's good for your hair. It's just like, is there any, and the argan oil, like, is there anything this plant doesn't do?
Well, I'll tell you what, with the recreational side, we're this coming weekend, we're actually going up to Sonoma for Jeff's birthday, and we're staying at a place that has like big Japanese soaking tubs, and you bet your ass I took a few bags of your bath salts to take up with me.
That's just so great. Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, on top of that, you're going to like increase someone's orgasm. So like, it's so trippy to think about. So like, we make a love bomb. And that's BALM, love balm. And I call it love balm because it's just like 5 ingredients of pure love. It's shea butter, coconut oil, olive oil, calendula, and cannabis, right? Super strong, 420 milligrams of THC in a 2-ounce jar. And the thing that tripped me out about this was that I was receiving testimonials from long-term married couples. So it's not just like you jumped on the magic horse one night and had some, excelled climactic experience, right? It's actually people who knew each other's bodies super well, have been doing the same things for like decades, right? And they were like, whoa, that was actually something new for us. We both had a heightened experience and heightened performance. So it's just like fascinating, to think about.
Yeah, it is. And that's, it's funny that you're talking about this now because, well, yesterday was Valentine's Day. And, for the past week, I've been doing different sex and cannabis things in honor. Valentine's Day isn't the only day that people have sex, but, it always seems like it's a great, time to have those conversations. But using cannabis, it increases your sensitivity. It's a vasodilator. And for women, especially like not even just sexy times, but like using, things like your love balm or cannabis lubes can help with, lubrication and any sort of discomfort that a person's having. It's great for intimacy. It's great for aftercare. It's great for daily care. I mean, I don't know, would you want to speak some more on that? Because I know way more about it than I do.
I love talking about this. Like some of my business partners, and they're like, yeah, could you stop with the suppository talk? I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like girls like us, like, or people with wounds like us, like we're not sick. There's nothing wrong with us. We just almost want to like treat it like our face. And like, we love weed and we work for our own money. So it's like, this is one of our forms of self-care. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if that resonates with you, but I'm like, wow, there's like a whole like army of us out there.
Oh, it totally resonates for me. Yeah. It's a conversation that we need to have more often.
Yeah, it's super interesting. So it's like even just looking at the bare, basic, undeniable facts that cannabinoids are antifungal, antibacterial, antimicrobial, and antiviral. And like I said before, we can't say it, but we know that they've killed cancer cells in many tests. So reputable tests. For me, that's a no-brainer. That with like the abundance of receptors in there and a space to like protect. So it's like there's never really a time that a person with a womb space wouldn't need or want or benefit from having cannabinoids in there. So, I mean, of course, once you're of age, right? So it's like first you have your period, you're bleeding for like 8 years of your life, literally. That's like a fact. Like the average Western woman bleeds for 8 years of her life. So that's a long time of pain and discomfort. You can dip your tampon in this love balm or any kind of coconut oil that's cannabinoid rich, or use an insert. Then you're hopefully at some time maybe sexually active or having self-love or love with another. So there's another use for it. Everyday use just to protect your space. Like how many people do you know are dealing with abnormal cells or abnormal pap smear, just as like a preventative and a maintenance and, a remedy. And then you go into menopause, and a lot of people don't like to talk about it, but there's a vaginal dryness that occurs for people. And then there's even stigma of like your partner. Like some people are really open with their partner. Some people may not be, you know? So what if you could actually put a little cannabis repository in and wait in bed, and then your lover doesn't even know that you used anything because maybe you're not in the place that you can talk about that. So in my opinion, there's never really a time when it's not like advantageous to use this.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, you know, when people get fascinated about it, it's just like with cannabis in general, it's an invitation for people to become more in touch with their bodies.
Yes, it is.
I really, really, really like that. And that's, I think, one of the biggest, your products really bring out that invitation, and being able to have those conversations about, you know, whatever we put in our bodies creates a reaction. And sometimes it's to help with discomfort. Sometimes it's just to add to the pleasure. Sometimes it's just maintenance, and it's all beautiful. I really, really like that.
Absolutely. You know, this plant brings such an abundant of vast therapeutic offerings. And on top of that, you know, she's like, oh, and I'll like heighten your orgasm and make you sleep and eat super well and just make you have a general, you know, upgrade in your quality of life.
Yeah. And I think that it's important to note too that these are the conversations that are coming forth, especially from companies with female founders. And, you know, it's 2:15 today, which when we look at what we were doing back in the days when we only had medicinal cannabis, we had a lot more female founders that were, you know, creating their own products, leading companies. There was just a lot more leadership, and you were one of the first in these times. And how do you feel as far as being a female founder and the landscape of what's going on now, and what we need to do to really, because I love guys. Guys are wonderful. They come up with great products too. And there are some really thoughtful, sensitive, soulful men out there. So guys, don't think that I'm dogging on you, because I'm not. I love you too. But I feel like a lot of the really thoughtful products that especially address intimacy and women's issues are the ones that are created by women, for women.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because traditionally, women have always been responsible for the harvest, right? Mm-hmm. Traditionally, like, you know, in our evolution, the men even have their mind that's developed in this way where they don't lateralize. Like, they literally don't lateralize. They're either on their right or their left side of their brain because they're hunting. And that was what they needed, a focus of razor sharp silence to sit all day and stalk their prey and hunt with a bow and arrow. The women, on the other hand, would be back at home on the homestead doing 20 things at once. You know, they would have a baby on their back or on their breast. They would be flipping a tortilla, tending a fire to keep it cooking, weaving a basket, making yarn, collecting berries, and chattering the whole entire time, telling the other girls very detailed informational stories about what happened when they ate this berry and how that bush over there came to season at this time, and don't ever eat that other berry because it looks the same, but it's actually poison. I mean, it's crazy how, like, we develop differently. Mm-hmm. Also, I hope I'm not going to offend anyone these days, because I don't know if this type of story like resonates with everyone or this type of information, but to me, it's just super interesting because like that's where I kind of resonate with cannabis in this sense, where like it wasn't until I was part of larger medicinal grows that I had access to huge amounts of organic trim, you know, and that really blessed up my life and changed my path, because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have been able to fumble my way through and learn my own techniques of infusion, you know. And then once we evolved to have lab testing, we got to really start to hone in on our skills, you know. So I'm almost like, for lack of a better way of putting it, and I'm saying this in the nicest way about myself, like so crazy about this like identity that I have, where like it's so natural and authentic to me that like I wake up and there's 10 more formulations in my head. Like that I almost don't even see the men and the sexism, but like I also am very well aware of it, and I hear about it all the time, and I know it's like a real thing. So like, and I've almost just like strong armed my way through, like, well, forget it. You know, if we're going toe to toe, I'm going to win the contest, and then we have like nothing to talk about, you know? So yeah. I don't know, maybe it was like a slightly special experience of how we luckily have gotten this far just based on like pure belief and like passion. But I will say, I know for a fact that investment amongst cannabis founders that are female is down overall. And I'm really sad to have seen that green bubble pop, because 4 years ago, you remember how everyone was talking about the glass ceiling and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it came in hot. Like it really came in hot for women. It did. And then like, I think it was a mix of a lot of different things. I think part of it was a little bit of, something trendy and a fad, and part of this green bubble that I think we can safely say has pretty much popped at this point. And then, you know, COVID happened, which I think threw everybody off. So who knows if it would have been a little different if we had kind of been able to ride out that green renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
But where we are today, like, I want to see more women in the space. I need to see more women in the space. I think women have a natural talent with cannabis, the female plant.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like there's a lot of thoughtfulness when it comes to creating products, to thinking about like some of the mistakes that have been made in the industry in the past around choices with extraction methods and hardware and things like that. You know, we don't see as much of that stuff going on in female-founded companies.
Yeah. Well, especially for some repository, right?
Yeah.
Like, or even the bads for that matter, because it really does touch every part of your body. I'm just like, wow, like we can't use like red 40 down there, you know, or anything nasty, really.
Yeah, that's it. And I feel like with a lot of there are some really thoughtful companies out there that are really looking at the fact that, you know, we need to use natural colorings and natural flavors. And like, you know, back in the day when we were seeing things like, you know, PEG being used in vaporizer cartridges. And I just remember watching that and going, oh my God, what's that going to do? We don't know what that does at a high temperature. What does that do to a person's lungs? We know it's added to other things, but in this day and age, we have a lot of chemicals and products that we shouldn't, and we do. And whether it's for, you know, economy or, you know, people wanting things done quickly, and that's what makes that happen, getting the results you need in the long run. The long game shows that it harms human beings. And I'm really glad that, I don't know, I just have, it seems like every year I always say, yeah, the word for the industry this year is hubris, and it hasn't changed.
Yeah. It is very interesting to see what's happening, isn't it? I mean, should we address the elephant in the room?
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, that this, you know, that essentially, you know, the cost of growing a pound is more than you can sell it for now, you know, of a sun-grown outdoor license permitted. And so you see a lot of people with a surplus of cannabis as this flood is just crazy. Some of them are super well-funded, some of them aren't. And, you know, people have started blending over into, well, I'll just make a gummy. And it's like, if you buy my flowers, I'll give you the gummy for free, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's going on to like other parts of the market too. So it's just very interesting to like watch and look at, you know, how it's all happening and where it will go, and like just be grateful if you do have some type of, you know, brand loyalty or reputation or foothold in the market already, then you'd be in a better position than a lot of other people.
Yeah. But even so, there's more room for abundance if we didn't have, I mean, we were pre-pandemic, we were already looking at massive extinction events. And I remember, and I think I've actually brought this up in other episodes, when I was in oversight committee and the controller's office was doing a report on the price per gram and how it was going up in the Bay Area due to competition. And and I just started, I kind of chuckled and I got on the mic and I was like, nothing ever goes up due to competition. You know, we have extensive taxation throughout the cycle of sale, of creation and sale of the plant to when it gets to the consumer. The standards that we're held to are even more stringent than the organic produce market, and the cost of doing business in California, much less the Bay Area, is exorbitantly high. And so when the state is, disappointed that they're not getting the tax revenue that they expected and that the traditional market is booming, I'm always surprised that they're surprised, because if we actually had reasonable taxation, because we do acknowledge as businesses that taxes do need to be paid, that we would not only, the state would be getting more money from the businesses because we'd be able to sell more product because it would be affordable, and there would be more businesses that would be able to actually compete and survive because they wouldn't be having to pay through the nose to exist. Much less the fact that, and I know you know this as a business owner, that we don't have the same, when we're getting to tax time, we don't have the same write-offs as other businesses either. So we're paying how many times the amount of a regular business in taxes?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I know. It's like, it's actually so stressful to be in cannabis. Like, oh my God. People say it's like a startup every day. I was like, that's even putting it lightly, Yeah,
you have to have a real love for it. And when people say that they want to get into it, that's the one thing I always say is like, you can't be getting into it because you're wanting to make wads of cash. You have to love it. And then I almost feel like saying, and bless your heart. I know it's awful, but
yeah,
they don't realize, like, yeah, it's exciting. Yes, it's fascinating, fun stuff, and we're always learning. But the pain that goes along with it, especially the anguish if you've put your, body and soul into creating a company and a product, and then you find that you just can't make it. And we see more and more of this.
Yeah, it's really sad, I think there's been a lot of people like basically spending money to act like they're making it, and you thought you needed that money for then. Wait till you see what's coming up next. I mean, I think it's just about to get like a whole another level tighter and higher around here as new players enter the scene. And, it's interesting. I hear a lot of people, are angry at like, the legacy market. And like, I understand there's a thriving legacy market in California. And I personally can't find myself to be angry about it because, first of all, I hope I don't get myself in trouble, but I still source my medicine from the legacy market. I mean, I'm not going to go pay for super tax terpless weed. Like I can't, it's just not, it's not right for my consumption. And, the interesting thing to me is like, we have to remember that the legacy market didn't thrive like this until the taxes were too high.
Yep.
And that's what made the legacy market thrive. And a lot of the people that almost made it in the compliant market either chose or were bumped out and are now participating in the legacy market. Like you can get just as good stuff.
Oh, you can get better.
I'm saying, yeah, and I actually realized as I'm saying that, I was like, maybe I should not say this. I'm sorry, Sarah, if I'm saying the wrong thing.
No, you're not. This is the time for truth.
Like, no, it's just it's a reality. Is that like we have to remember to not get it twisted. That actually the legacy market is thriving more than ever now, and it's because of the crazy taxes.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think that the legacy market's the problem. I think the taxes are.
It's true. It is. The taxes are the issue because we had an amazing opportunity to get everybody on board to the taxable market and have, all these people working in the legacy market, being seen as entrepreneurs by the state, and the state screwed it up. Plain and simple.
You know what else was screwed up? If California legalized it, how come each county was allowed to make different laws? I mean, you and I both know people that paid rent on a building for so long that they weren't able to use because the county changed its mind.
Yeah.
And then said,
yeah. And I also know people who were renting out, spaces to cannabis companies waiting for permitting solely on the thing that they were hoping that they weren't going to get the permit so that they could just collect rent while these people were, treading water. I think I might have lost you there.
Oh,
now I hear you.
do you have like a sign?
What? Now you're breaking up. Let's see here. I'm going to make a note.
I was saying, do you have like a train that keeps going by at your house?
No, are you hearing something like that?
Oh my God. Yeah, let me walk upstairs and let's see if it gets a little better. Oh my God, so funny. I was like this weed is really good, or I'm getting abducted by aliens or something. Just kidding. No, I was doing witchy stuff. I was burning all my wishes from last year because it's a big full moon tonight. And then all the planets go direct. So it's going to be a time where all of our wishes and prayers can be set into motion.
I didn't even realize like where the moon was right now. I've been just this is one of those times where it's like, you got to like get back in your body. I've been rushing from moment to moment. It's been a busy couple of weeks with just so many things going on. There's been the, Save California Cannabis Coalition really trying to push for lowering taxes so that companies can survive. There's just so many things that have been going on that I get distracted with, what else is going on in the world, just being immersed in all of this.
Absolutely.
So when we're looking at the future of cannabis, what do you see? Because you've been doing this for a while, you've seen the ups and the downs, and we all anticipated what was going to happen when we passed legalization. Most of us, I know for me, when people would ask, when they were saying, not to vote for legalization, my biggest fear was that if we didn't pass at that time, it seems like every time that it would go to a vote with normalization, more people felt comfortable getting involved, which to me meant more greed and more rules that didn't necessarily serve the people and small businesses. And so that's why I initially went for it, because I knew it wasn't great, but I've had a fear that it would be even worse the next time it came on the ballot. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that and on the future.
Well, I am sad to see, how crazy it's gotten for California. And the reason is because of the same reason why we have the best weed. It's our crop and our geography. It's our soil and things that can't be purchased. So it's like, imagine our farm-to-table produce and our beautiful coastlines and the best weed in the world and a population that's like a country. Like, man, we really could have done this thing right. So I'm sad, I don't know if you've been to Spain, but you go into some of those social clubs and you're offered wine, you can have an espresso, everyone's smoking weed. It's just like so beautiful. And I don't know why they had to treat the weed scene like almost like a jail, or there's just like no sexiness in it. And that makes me sad, because we could have had a super sexy like commerce where people were traveling all over the world to come experience it, like Amsterdam used to be. So I do have sad reflections. Of course, my heart bleeds when I think about this plant and how out of sync we are with the spirit of this plant, with the way a lot of these laws have been written. But am I grateful that so many people that didn't have access before now have access to cannabis? Yes. Am I grateful that so many people that had no idea what cannabis could do for people now know, even by a topical miracle? Yes. So am I grateful to participate? You better believe it. So I'm just here trying to survive and make my way through with these turbulent times for everybody during COVID. Like, this is year 3 and cannabis had no bailouts. Yes, we were deemed essential. I think that was a turning point for cannabis. I'm super grateful for that. It would have been nice to have some more support, and obviously, clearly something needs to happen about these taxes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But at the end of the, and I mean, I hope this doesn't make people hate me. Like, I'll be honest. I actually voted no. I hope it doesn't make anyone. I voted no twice. Like, can you believe that?
It's your right to.
It was just so crazy, but it's like, it's not because I wanted it to be illegal. It's quite the contrary, but it's because I already had my hands in there and I was already courageous enough to just dive in and take a risk. And like some of the real medicine makers just really did that, so I experienced what we lost and I saw what we lost, and I'm grateful to be in a new place, and there's no point in going back, but I hold the memories fondly to my heart. And I do hope that we can still rectify the situation. Like if they even just changed the taxes, even just that alone would make everything more manageable.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't blame you for voting no. I mean, there were a lot of people who were very pro-cannabis who saw the writing on the wall and understood that this was not going to be what we wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, somehow where there's money, like the greed always comes, and so, for me personally too, like one of my crusades in my mind is like, what about those terpenes though? Like we're talking about saving businesses, but it trickles down to like actually saving terps.
Yeah.
So that's the real heartbreak for me. Like I got into a dialogue with a dispensary owner that was just basically saying they didn't care about terpenes because they only wanted to sell based on potency. And like, I understand that, the consumer gets there and you say, look, this one's 90-something%, like get this, and they're like, okay, it's a super easy sell, right? And you can't really smell it anyways and all that stuff. But if we don't educate people on the therapeutic of stanky, baky, bomb weed that, got all the terps intact and really good organic sun-grown cannabis, it can disappear, and some of the low yielding but super loud therapeutic strains can disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And I always, you can't love weed if you don't love outdoor. You can't love weed if you don't love outdoor.
No, there's nothing like the sun. And when people are talking about potency and they're just looking at the THC levels, what they're not realizing is that a huge part of that potency is the terpene profiles. Like I remember back in the day, and I miss it when we would actually be able to open up the jars and measure out, because from an educational standpoint, that was both educational for the people working there and also for the people purchasing. But I remember like having J27 on the menu, which was, in the mid 20s for percentage. And I remember having people purchase it saying it was really good for their pain relief, but it was actually quite functional. And then I remember, trying different flowers that were at like maybe 13% THC, but had a very interesting terpene profile that felt even stronger than that flower that was in the 20s with their percentage with THC. And that was like a huge learning moment for me where I was like, that is not the end all be all. And really we need to be looking at, all the different components that make up cannabis that create that spectrum of feel, that create therapeutic effects, and it's going to be different for each person. And then when we're looking at like just being able to, of course, the one thing I don't miss about having open jars where measuring things is when somebody would reach their hands in the jar and I'd have to almost slap them with my tongs and be like, no, you can't touch it. Would you want to smoke something that all of San Francisco touched? No, you don't. Keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah.
But being able to send people home with the same thing that they smelled and being able to actually, educate our staff on bud structure so that they could look at something and actually know exactly what it was from the structure of the bud and what it smelled like.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's like nature's design, that you could have a terpene imprint on your olfactory memory and be able to, remember what medicine may or may not have worked for you.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting. Yeah. It's so interesting. You know, I ended up saying to that person, like, so then what are you going to do? Like smoke distillate? Cause it's like 100% potency, but you know what I mean? And time and time again, they've asked cancer patients, do you want this Marinol pill, which I've taken before and it was fun? Or would you just, you know, prefer to take a hit of a joint? And each and every one of them would say, I got more relief from taking a hit of a full flower joint. You know, than taking some chopped and segmented and dissected, isolated, processed, you know, thing, right?
Yeah. Well,
the whole
that's
as itself, right? Is just so much more medicinal.
It is. And that I actually learned that firsthand because when I was going through chemo, I had infusions from every other week from Wednesday to Friday. And my mom was doing cancer research at Baylor in Dallas. So on those Fridays, after my nurse would come in the morning and unhook me from my chemo, I'd hop on a plane and go see my mom. And part of my getting back into my body after chemo was being able to use cannabis to help eat and get rid of the residual nausea and and I'd be really achy and my neuropathy would just be popping so bad that it was even like in my eyes and my nose. So traveling to Texas, I wasn't going to be taking my weed with me because you don't mess with Texas. So I got a Marinol prescription and I took it with me there. And I lost a weekend with my mom because I was just a groggy bitch. It was so awful for me. It did not help me with anything. And that was when I started to learn that isolated cannabinoids on their own, for a lot of people, don't do a hell of a lot.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, what we need to start, really, really talking more about, especially, and also like when we're looking at I feel for people who are in areas where they don't have access to cannabis, but when we're looking at these synthesized cannabinoids that are coming out of CBD, that's some dangerous shit.
Absolutely.
What do you think about all that?
So I'm right there with you. I mean, I'm like a huge proponent for Rick Simpson oil, and even at we use rosin in a lot of our products, and we also use a broad spectrum concentrate. It's like black, like Phoenix Tears. It's super runny, and it just has tons of supporting cannabinoids in it. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's like, maybe I can call it a full spectrum, but it's it's full of different cannabinoids. And when we use that with the full spectrum rosin in a blend, you hear about it. It just gives people a more supportive experience. It gives you many more benefits than just some little flat spike that drops you, abruptly after. And so, I think that we should really be continuing to educate people on the values of full spectrum medicine.
Yeah.
I also wonder if there's going to be some type of check going on that can come and verify people, just like there was the whole movement with the different terroirs. You can't say it's Humboldt grown unless it's actually from Humboldt, or you can't say it's Champagne unless it's from Champagne, France. I wonder if someone will ever come and check that everybody is, in fact, using full spectrum when they say so, right?
Right.
So that'll be interesting to see where we get there. There's lots of work to do, and I know also as the industry is just going cuckoo, you can really easily get non-solvent material now for comparable prices. You don't necessarily need to choose chemi stuff if you don't want to.
Yeah. And it seems like there's a lot more of a movement for people acknowledging that there's nothing like the sun. Going back to when you were talking about sun-grown cannabis, you can't, I remember having somebody say to me, I have a indoor grow with full spectrum LCD lights. And I just had to chuckle.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I know. There's so much misinformation, like not to like knock anyone, I don't mean to knock people, but like people think that live rosin is solventless,
Yeah.
And live resin is solventless, and it's not. And it's not that I'm against, concentrates with solvents, the broad spectrum one that we use is like made with an alcohol solvent. So it's just like, but, it's got to be done right.
Yes.
And it's good for people and I think that the bud tenders oftentimes don't know.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said for a culture of a company for empowering their bud tenders with education. There's a lot, it's a disservice to them and their professional development and to them serving the public by not well educating them on these things. And you're right, there's I don't have anything against certain extraction methods, but they have to be done correctly. They have to be done thoughtfully. And fortunately, with our testing in California, we have, more things in place to keep the consumer safe, but we also need to be really truthful around the conversations, whether something is extracted with a solvent or not.
Yeah. Well, see, and so for me personally, like as a consumer, I will smoke any type of concentrate as long as it's done right. So you could have used butane solvent, if you got it all out, I'm down to smoke it. If you capture the terpenes, I'm down to smoke it, I think there's benefits and drawbacks to every single type of extraction. But that being said, of course, non-solvent is is truly my favorite. I mean, there's just this capturing of terpenes that can only be captured when they're fresh, they do the fresh frozen harvest and then, keep it frozen and then wash it there. It's like a lot. If you've ever walked through a living garden in bud, a lot of the like tuberose and gardenia and really light florals and Hawaiian florals, they disappear when they dry because they're so volatile. So that's truly delightful experience to be able to taste, all the different flavors that Northern California has to offer. Because I really don't mean to sound any type of way, and I really don't. I'm not lying when I say I do think it's the best hash in the world.
Yeah, well, and I think when you're talking about methods and what you think of them, I don't see it as knocking other people's processes. It's a part of an ongoing conversation to help everybody develop and grow and to do the best that they possibly can. And how can we not do that without having these conversations?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's really true.
And that's the thing. I always feel like, talking to somebody like you, other people who've been doing this work for a long time, when we're having these conversations, it's not about taking down anyone or their products. It's about the call to have a certain standard and to continuously learn. And that's actually one of the things I love about what we do, is that we are continuously learning. And I learned so much from all of our colleagues, and I really treasure that. And as frightened as I am for the future of cannabis, especially in California, I'm also extraordinarily hopeful that, we have people like you who are constantly striving for excellence and showing, how things need to be done to inspire other people, and also hopefully to inspire better policies on the state, local, and national level.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the kind words. And thank you for all that you do in the space. And I think that, people that truly love cannabis and consume it and have been touched by it in some type of way, oftentimes become guardians and seem to hold it in a better light, and, or they may know someone who they love and care about that directly received some type of cannabis miracle. And, just grateful to keep doing the good work. And I hope that we can continue to do better. And I hope that they're going to give us some tax breaks.
I hope so too. We have a lot to work on in the next few years. Wow. We sure talked. We're like,
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I just think this was a great conversation. And I also want to make sure that people know how to reach you and follow you. So if they want to reach out to you or follow you in your company, what's the best way for them to do that?
Thank you, Sarah. That's really kind of you. So we are located in the Bay. Our kitchen's in Berkeley. We're a female-founded legacy company. And we are at omliving.com. And our Instagram, which we're pretty active on, is Get Om Living. And please don't hesitate to join our email list and reach out to us in any way. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
And for those of you out there who are in states where they don't have cannabis programs, Maya has a CBD line. And normally, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, you know, you have to be very careful where you're purchasing your CBD products from. And know that when you're, especially when somebody's already working in the existing cannabis market, but especially for somebody like Maya, who's been doing this for a very long time, who's well respected, you can actually order her CBD products online and know that you're getting a quality product. I had to put a little plug in there for you because I love you that much.
Dear, thank you so much. No, you can get really high quality hemp CBD that's grown in America, that is broad spectrum. It just doesn't have THC. And so that's what we use with essential oils. We do all of our salts. We do bulk buckets of the 10-pound salts because Epsom salts are great for that. If you want, you can grab an oil and add it to the CBD salt if you want, if you like that. And yeah, we do a little ice stick, pain liniment. It like ices you out with one essential oil and some body oils, but no edibles, just topical.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And for those of you out there who want to follow Planted on social media, remember that we are twice a month now. We are Planted with Sara Payan on Facebook. On Instagram, we are Planted with Sara. And on Twitter, we are Planted with Sara. We are also www.plantedwithsara.com. Our parent network is the Radio Misfits Network, where you can find all of the episodes. And we are wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We are on Pandora, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, Stitcher, and TuneIn. Everybody, thank you for joining us today. It's always wonderful spending time with you. And remember, it's a crazy world out there. Be safe, stay healthy, be kind to one another. And until next time, stay curious.